Well, good morning, everybody, or afternoon, depending where you are in Canada. Today it's day 5, story 5, every day from now till June 28th, 2022, as UNSC entertains Canada on Children's Day of Genocide in Armed Conflict. That's been sponsored by China. We're going forward with that. We're going to teach the chiefs to report, not only to the Elder Council of the UN, run largely by Ireland today as presidency, brought forward by Nelson Mandela from South Africa in all the narratives. It matches the First People of Canada because in that colonial history of those First Peoples, they had elder councils too, not unlike the Canadian Treaty Indian people outlined in all treaties. So today we're going to focus on the Solomon Islands. I told you that every day there's going to be a story. The First Peoples like stories. It's for all First Peoples and all Canadians. Why I hit the Solomon Islands and relate it to today's current events is so that you can follow along in story and understand the world as it really is. Before I begin with the Solomon Islands and why I'm using that story today, this is for Russ DeBeo. Now, Chris Ford, a follower, you have ties to Russ DeBeo. Well, here, this is for you today in real relevance. Real relevance, Russ DeBeo. You talk about the doctrine of discovery of the colonial powers. I talk about them all the time. UK is not the only colonial power. We also have France. We have Germany, Spain, Portugal, Denmark. There are 7 powers of colonialism who went around eradicating inferior peoples. We have the papal doctrine of discovery. Russ refers to that from the Pope. Rules of governance, so to speak, out on the world of converting those less civilized. Russ says it's in the way of truth and reconciliation. The Pope has to renounce it. Well, Russ, I'm going to take you across the world today and for all First Peoples, just for the population of Treaty Indians, the Solomon Islands, 30,000-year-old First Peoples of the Solomon Islands went through everything and even worse than what Canada has gone through. If you don't know, you want to talk about real, credible, verifiable, lots of publication, but again, out west here in the Commonwealth, we're never going to ever look at that. You won't be educated in any school ways. You won't learn that there was a Truth and Reconciliation Commission organized for the Solomon Islands, and it was thrown in the garbage. It never saw the light of day, concluded in 2003, never went forward to the Parliament, which is exactly the same parliamentary system as Canada, with the same constitutional embedments, made after Canada. In fact, 30 years after Canada, 20 years after the Indian Act, the legacy staple document used throughout the world. This is specific to Axis powers, which one colonial I forgot in that list of the 7 is Japan. Is Japan good these days? Did Russia and USA do a good job with Japan? Nuh-uh. And that brings me to the point of the Solomon Islands. Do you know who's pro-Russia right now today? The Solomon Islanders are. The majority of Solomon Islanders are absolutely supporting Russia. Do you know why that is, Canadians and First Peoples? Why? Well, I can tell you first, the Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice, exactly Canada's system, Governor General, and all of the justices sworn to Governor General, You will find that in the Solomon Islands, a Sir from the UK, a Pacific justice moved from another Commonwealth country, imposed into the Solomon Islands, runs all the highest courts of the Solomon Islands. Did you know that you go to school in over 900 of those little islands? Very poor, very poor. You can look at Fiji, the French connection, which again, this is for you, Rustabeo. You should pay attention to this video. There are just as many Solomon Islanders as there are Treaty Indians in Canada. Did you know that? Did you know that the doctrine of discovery with those crown colonial powers, the seven, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, pounded the living hell out of the Solomon Islanders, the 30,000-year-old native culture there, that had never seen anything but abuse from all colonials until, ladies and gentlemen, World War II. And who freed them? At that time, the United States of America, bringing forward federalism. And for many years after World War II, up to that transitionary year, you ready for it, everybody? 1952. All independence, real independence for Solomon Islands as proposed by the Federalist country, United States of America, in full support and agreement of China and Russia. USA, China, and Russia. Federalism shown and exposed to all the Solomon Islanders, the native majority, who had all their land taken away, made a slave labor class. 1896. All based off the Indian Act, all based off that bill of 1867 called Canada, folks. Ouch. This is sick, but it's reality. And it's education everybody must get. There's been nothing but strife in the Solomon Island. All of them, there's 900 of them. Imagine this, First Peoples and Canadians. Imagine your children being taken away from you after grade 6 and your children transferred to the capital. You see, in 1952, King George VI died. USA's transition of the Solomon Islands handed back over to the United Kingdom. From 1943 to 1952, 9 years, they got to see real federalism, real independence of the justice system, only to be forced back into it. It's been strife ever since. Truth and Reconciliation Commission, you can go through the years. 1978, they got independence, but did they? All they got transitioned to was welcome to being a Canada, welcome to a minority group ruling over you. Did you know they have no police force, none whatsoever, except for that which Australia provides for? They're not allowed to have their own police force. 67% of all women and children have experienced sexual abuse in the Solomon Islands. It's rampant there. Exploitation, child sex trafficking, exploited. One of the worst in the world today. Again, there was a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, but buried upon its completion in 2003. It never saw the Parliament. Never. And you look at all the transitions of prime ministers. You talk about Liberal NDP collusion, Conservative Bloc collusion, all in the name of the Crown, all done there to absolutely abuse and push those people down. They have a soap opera now. It's about a woman and a man who get divorced. The man's being good at first, but the woman remarries a rich tyrant. And the children, the three children, get tore apart again. It's the story of Russia and Ukraine. It's the story of USA. The Solomon Islanders are very upset that USA abandoned them in 1952. The majority of the first peoples of those 900 islands, which are a country today, the UN finished that. They support Russia with Ukraine because they know all about feeling the federalism, thinking you're going to get your independence and get your federalism just like we, the people of the United States of America, or we, the people of the fatherland, Russia. That's all they ever wanted. They wanted their government self-determination. Has that happened for them? No. It's been strife and struggle ever since, exploited beyond all measure. Forced labor. France is in there like a dirty shirt. Australia, New Zealand. Australia is one of the worst. Japan. And guess what's happened now? Because America didn't finish the job, because Russia can't finish the job, apparently USA and Russia would rather fight each other than finish decolonization in the world. The British Empire has exploited that. They've got corrupt presidents. We have Joe Biden right now, completely corrupted with the crown. He's betrayed his own mother. Dirty politicians are the kind of people that would stab their own mothers in the back. Joe Biden has clearly done that. Solomon Islanders, just like the first peoples of Canada, have had enough. They've been in many revolts, constantly flipping out prime ministers, bought off. They have the Governor General. Most of them are Sir right out of the UK. People who shouldn't be governing, not any crown customary law, but they do. Australia imposes the military and police. The last time the Solomon Islanders rebelled, which is in recent time here, Australia sent 7,200 military personnel to quash the majority against the divine minority, who don't even belong there. It's not their lands. They still fight back. They fight back today as hard as they can, but it's not enough. They appeal to Russia. They've appealed to China. And guess what? They've signed an agreement with China to take over the policing. They're trying to transition into education. To put it in perspective, Canadians, what you don't know, first people, what you don't know about the rest of the world, or you just don't give a shit because you think 40 million people is so vastly more important than the whole world. That's the divine system of crown. This is what happens to you. You become blindsided. You get horse blinders put on by your government through education, not to be made available to you. So those islanders at the age of grade 6, if you want your child to continue forward from junior high through high school, you have to pay to send them off your island, ferry them over, pay for their room and board in a government institution in the capital. You don't see your kids again, folks. I wonder why sexual abuse and child sex trafficking is 67% in the Solomon Islands. I wonder what the Truth and Reconciliation Report finalized in 2003 has to say about it. Why did it go in the garbage can? Why did Australia, who's firmly embedded in the parliamentary system, the UK royal family, firmly cemented through Crown customary law, Governor General, your Chief Justice? Why do you need to impose your will on those people? Why do you dumb them down? Why do you make education impossible for them? Oh yeah, you've imposed unitary constitutional monarchy. Queen Elizabeth II rules over all those inferior human beings. That report is likely much, much worse than even Canada's report. Even though Canada came first, this Nazi Germany system we live in Canada, the Solomon Islanders are going through it too. They will be on the list of countries that's going to throw out the crown. They would do that tomorrow if they could, but it's pretty tough when you have Sir Asswipe as your Governor General and Sir Asswipe B as your Chief Justice. How do people get represented as the majority with a minority foreign rule? USA promised that was gone. They liberated the Solomon Islanders, and then they walked away upon the death of King George VI. USA never looked back. They never looked in the rearview mirror to see how those people were doing. Russia's never gone back. They've been left alone in their unitary imposed system from the royal family. Slave labor to work on plantations, never to see any education beyond grade 6 because you'll have to go away to boarding school. You'll have to be programmed to hate your people, hate yourself, experience sexual abuse, all of it. Women are treated terribly in the Solomon Islands, always have been. Children too. You get thrown out on the street there. You become fodder for the sexually depraved from all over the world. That's the Solomon Islands. Things could be much worse, Canada, when we get into the doctrine of discovery. You think France, UK, Japan are going to support any removal of the doctrine of discovery? Do you think those colonial superpowers and their atrocities even today in the Solomon Islands ever can be brought to light? Do you think the Catholic Church, even if they wanted to, as they were church under state during those times, do you think they want USA learning about the Philippines' March of Death, plus much, much more that's been sequestered so Americans never know about the inequality of class structure and the American soldier who's died all over the world because they live under equality of person. But there are many, many Unitarian Crown states who don't operate that way. They will sacrifice you as boot fodder. It's been done many times in many conflicts. Americans have no idea. Russians have no idea. China's waking up to it. Solomon Islands signed a deal for police and military and a Chinese base to try and get everything back. China, who sponsored Canada's residential school genocide, officially, you can see Zhang Zhen and myself exchange on Twitter. I saved it. I published it on my Facebook. It's not fake. I am the only Canadian with the P5 sponsored case, not vetoed. All 4 others, UK, France, USA, and Russia, have not vetoed. They've abstained. The Chiefs have one last chance. They need to report. They need to be shown how to report outside of the Canadian government. The same kind of corruption that Australia, New Zealand, UK still impose, and France still impose on places like the Solomon Islands. This is day 5, video 5. It's for every first person, Métis, Inuit, unceded, seated, as well as all Canadians. Start learning the world as it really is. It's much more depraved and sick. Unitary states like Ukraine, forcing Unitarianism or crown colonialism on any nation is deadly wrong in this world today. Now, some places that works. Do you think it works for 900 spread out small islands, even village islands? Do you think Unitarianism works for regions like that? No. No, it doesn't. It's been imposed. USA brought those people federalism, and then they walked away upon King George VI's death, allowed again foreign rulers over a massive majority, not indigenous, to throw the crown on their head and say, "We will rule over you in our divine capacity." Absolutely everything against what USA and Russia absolutely stand for. What USA and Russia promised the whole world, never again, and began the process of decolonization. USA, what's happened to you? How can you elect a president who's in love with Unitarianism and foreign policy, unitary, all for the benefit of the crown, not for the benefit of America. This costs America troops. It costs Americans lives. It costs Americans respect. And it costs America its own constitution. Why are you benefiting the royal family and the Commonwealth? How does that help you? The answer is it doesn't. It's called paying off politicians against we, the people of the United States of America. Same thing's happening to Russia. The more you dig, the more you're going to hate the Democrat Party out of the United States. And then it ties in all the Commonwealth countries and all the Commonwealth constitutional monarchical systems or unitary systems. Even if they're a republic, but they maintain the colonial powers, they maintain the Unitarianism. That's terrible. That's terrible. Customs, religion, culture, social and economic belong to the majority, decided by we, the people. Canada, every day, for the days from now till June 28, 2022, I'm going to give you a real history lesson in real places in the world that's never been made available to you. It's not super secret, but it's so sequestered by a ruling elite in a far-off land. The kind of elite Ronald Reagan rose to majority to try and stop. Because America always has to reset itself. That's the Constitution. They can't allow this to grow and continue. But it is. Joe Biden will be thrown out on his ass. He's going to get whipped in midterms. And then following that, he's going to get thrown out of office. Is it so long away? Sure, a lot of damage can be done. We're seeing it each and every day. The propaganda machine of media in full-blown lie continues. Solomon Islanders are of the most uneducated people in the entire world, not by accident, a slave labor force. Oh no, it's not true. We educate. Just hand over your children, put them on a boat, send them to the crown, finest institution in the unitary central government. It's equivalent of imagine Canadians that upon the graduation of grade 6, your junior high school girls and junior high boys would have to go to a compound, one of 3 in Ottawa, from every square inch of Canada to learn what the government wants you to learn in absence of your parents. How many parents being brutally propagated, transformed through sexual, mental abuse, physical abuse, would say, I went through it, my kids aren't going through it, I'll keep them at home. Of course, there's no materials, no taxation system in place to give the power of education at home. There's not even schools because it's not allowed. Not regionally, you guys. Central state unitary systems. Well, that's what Kiev is. How does that work for the former Soviets? The majority Russian-speaking Russians. Is this the kind of world we're all behind? Ukraine, Ukraine. Oh yeah, Axis powers. What? My ancestors fought for the Allies. They fought for the concepts that were the UN, the Charter of 1945, and all subsequent binding laws. Millions gave their lives for that. For freedom. Freedom from tyranny, from oppressive powers. We're to decolonize the world, but apparently that's not to be. First people of Canada, be lucky at least Truth and Reconciliation was published, because in the Solomon Islands, that's in the garbage can since 2003. Not to be made public, not to be pushed through Parliament, because that's deadly against Australia, New Zealand, Japan, France, and absolutely the royal family in the UK. They need to whip them peoples of non-white color. They need to be forced into heavy labor, low wages, and never get out of poverty. Their children are to be harvested in the way the crown sees fit and its other colonial and former Axis power superpowers. Germany was in there like a dirty shirt too, folks. Germany, Japan, France, UK. It's a sick, sick history. Something right out of a horror movie novel. Much worse than Canada. And it's continuing right now today. The Solomon Islanders have rebelled many times. And they get crushed by Australia, by Japan, by New Zealand, mostly Australia, all through the royal family's decrees, because the 2012 Charter and Preliminary, the Commonwealth as it is, says, and the Constitution says, give it to the British Empire, give it to the royal family. All of your sovereignty, all of your actions, all of your international relations and international concepts of law. Contrary to the allies of World War II and everything they've ratified. You dig deep enough, yes, is there a 150-year history absent in Canada, specifically Quebec, the upper and lower Canada, specific to First Peoples? Absolutely. The same kind of history missing from the Solomon Islands, tied to France and UK. Will you ever get that history? Doctrine of discovery from the Catholic Church, that's never going anywhere. You have two superpowers, France and UK, who will never allow that to go through, not their ties to the Axis powers. Still today, still operating the same way. USA was dealing with it, Russia was dealing with it up to 1952, because you had a good king, King George VI. While his daughter Elizabeth is nothing of the sort. Again, I'm going to say it, on Christmas Day 2021, just a few months ago, she stood up and said Jesus was just a man. She doesn't believe in Muhammad. She doesn't believe in Moses. She doesn't believe in Jesus, because she's a god. All royals are. Look at the terminology. Look at who's the Governor General of the Solomon Islands today. Look at the title. I couldn't make this stuff up if my life depended on it, and I think it does. I'm going to continue. I'm going to go as long as I can. We're going to get the job done. The government's making it extremely hard for me. I don't know how much more they're going to take or they're going to force away from me. Just like Treaty Indians, seated, unceded, Métis, Inuit, just like the Solomon Islanders, a 30,000-year-old history of First Peoples. Alive and well today, the clear majority, but a minority in say, a minority in relation to their resources, their governance. It's all royal family crap that USA is constitutionally sworn to say no to. So's Russia. Unitarianism is not in the constitutional language of Russia or the United States of America. How is it that Russia and USA keep butting heads all the time? What's going on here? Who's crafting all this? Who's corrupt? At different times it's been Russia, at different times it's been USA. It's always traceable, and it always goes back to the Bank of England. I call it the $12 trillion war against America, Russia, and now China too. China's fighting back. The Solomon Islanders were there. They've begged USA to no avail, not since 1952. Russia's never got involved. They support the federalism. They want that it does match a lot of the first cultures here worldwide. You'll see that. Just like the Iroquois Confederacy. It has taught Americans so much that transformed their system. Solomon Islands wants it too. How are they going to get it? Now they're at the end of the rope. They're going on with China. And people say, oh, China's expanding everywhere. Oh my God. Are they expanding everywhere? Or did Russia and USA fail in their international obligations under binding international law? The answer is, of course they did, because they got involved in a Cold War they want to reestablish today. Now, Russia doesn't want that. Taiwan, well, who does it belong to? It belongs to China, folks. Signed, sealed, certified. Hong Kong, China, folks. Look at the history. Look at Taiwan's history. You don't tear apart territorial integrities. Why is USA down with that now? Why is Joe Biden promoting that? Why are they propagating that? Why are Republicans getting involved in that? Why are they trying to transform the world into something that looks a lot like the colonial structures which led to World War II, colonial structures that gave rise to Nazi Germany, Australia, Japan, New Zealand, Canada, through the UK, France, Denmark, Spain, Portugal, Germany. It's sick, folks. It's sick, folks. And what Russia says about denazification, neo-nationalism, if they had the correct terminology, if we could come up with a universal dictionary, it would be crown colonialism in our narrative. But Russians and Americans can't see it because the crown is so very far removed from society. It was both countries' greatest weaknesses. They expelled it. They moved on with federalism. They're the most powerful nations in the world today. Why? Because they respect cultural diversity. They have one uniform praise of a country. They're full nationalists with a subdivision of regions respecting cultural, language, religious, social, and economic differences. They all work together, making them a very, very powerful country, each respectively. Now, Unitarianism for island states, that's great. Not 900 islands. 900 islands requires federalism, it's clear as day. But it's imposed crown Unitarianism, crown customary law, and elite first-class citizenry to exploit the third-class savages, because that's what they are. Low wages, undesirable working conditions, shipped off to other countries to work a dismal existence, never get ahead, have all your resources and land expropriated, and you live on the divine direction of a wealthy first class who fills their back pocket. Sound familiar, Canadians? First Peoples? When I say it again, there are just as many Treaty Indians as there are Solomon Islanders. Exact same amount of people. We can go over the world and we'll find 30% of the world underneath, nearly 30% of the world under these exploitative circumstances, led by former crown colonials, Axis and allied powers that should possibly never have been. I don't know why France and UK were made P5 members. They begged for Russia and USA, and they agreed to all their terms, but upon King George VI's death, they threw that away, and now they pay off American presidents to follow their system, a system that's ruled illegal today, and we allow it to continue. Solomon Islands is going to break away. I don't know how many years away that is, but the majority has clearly had enough. How many effed up governments and constant flipping of prime ministers distress and absolute revolution can you allow to continue? Why does USA allow Australia to impose its will? Look at the last major conflict. Australia brought in 7,200 military personnel. The abuses are substantial. If you could read a report, it's going to read the same or much, much worse, likely much, much worse than Canada's Truth and Reconciliation report. But again, it's in the garbage can. The Parliament will never bring it forward. Why? Because the Crown customary system through Governor General, the Chief Justice of the Court, are all one and the same, sworn to the Prime Minister, whose crown, given by the royal family, they get the domestic governing power, as long as they give all international law and relations to the royal family. How's that even legal in the UN? But they want to rewrite the UN right now. They want to say, hey, let's topple another federal system called Russia. Let's topple that, throw them away. USA, under Joe Biden, why would you decimate a federal system called Russia? Why would you justify unitary foreign policy? Why would you justify a crown colonial system all over the world and cement that and turn a blind eye to it when you promised never again and that could never ever exist again? Why would you allow that to go unless somebody's filling your back pocket full of money under that slavery system? If Russia falls, so does USA, I can promise you that. You will only strengthen the unitary systems, the civil law socialist. You will only strengthen the crown. A crown that threatens to bring back a Nazi Germany-style system worldwide. It's already still in play all over, just like the Solomon Islands. But how long until that becomes mainstream and we're all going, how did this happen? And then what, America goes to war again? But they won't have a Russian ally if they allow that to be decimated. They may not have a Chinese ally. How many American lives are going to be lost against freedom? How many wars is USA going to allow to continue on peoples against what is America? Russia too. They have a job to do. They're the most powerful nations in the world. They're not doing that job anymore. It seems to have petered out in the 80s as we watch the crown grow much, much stronger. 54 nations, soon to be 53, I hope, then 52, and then 6 more coming after that. It will only get more expensive to be a Commonwealth country. Canada will have to transfer more wealth to the Bank of England to make up for the loss of slave labor and subjugated people. It's coming, folks. And Canadians are going to go, it's Russia's fault. We don't really trade with Russia, folks. Not in any real meaningful way in our supply and value chains. The only reason why we're getting all these incremental costs as the third largest reserves of energy is that the royal family is deemed your energy off limits, off production, that the people of Canada must suffer so that their wealth can continue to grow. It's disgusting. Disgusting. When are people going to wake up? Thank you. This is my video today. You can all go look at it. Many, many articles, many, many research papers. Some smart folks have written about this in Clear History. You can read it in Britannica. It's sad, it's sick, it's depraved. Russia and USA promised never again. We gave them tremendous power for that privilege. We gave them rule over international law. They have a job to do and they got to get busy. It's all over the world. Petering out by the early 80s is not acceptable. You must finish what you started. And that's going to start on June 28th, 2022. I hope the Chiefs will do it. I hope they will hold Canada to account and once again revitalize the Allies, the P5. get them back to their job in this world today. Thanks. That's my video. Share, share, share. It's true. It's credible. It's verifiable. The video ain't going down. That's history as it really is. That's the current status in this world as it really is. Join me tomorrow for another exciting day as we go through the entire world over all these days as I teach Canadians and especially the First Peoples what's been done worldwide, how you can make a difference. Thank you. Bye now.